Thanks, Bill. You know, few shows had the celebrity chemistry of the match game, and that's what helped make it so successful. Entertaining America for over 2 decades, a legendary cast of television's greatest improvisers, all combined with their host, Gene Rayburn. They created magic and filled in the blanks to often suggestive clues. When the contestant answers matched the celebrities, they won big bucks. Now, 20 years later, we've tracked Gene down to get the match game secret.
In the beginning, Mark Goodson insisted on my playing the game, and that was very restricting for me, and I just wouldn't do it. He would write long memos to the producer asking him to control me, and finally, when our ratings went through the roof for a daytime show, he finally came around, and to his credit, then instead of hiring regular writers, he hired comedy writers to write the questions. But in the beginning, he was a pain in the blank.
Pain or not, they all agreed on one thing. The show was a success because of the antics.
The whole secret of the success of that show was the spontaneity. And everybody got that spirit and would make spontaneous contributions that were very funny.
One of those funny characters was Charles Nelson Riley, a show regular like Betty White and Brett Summers. And when they weren't playing around, their job was to fill in the blank. But it was Riley who always stole the show.
We'd like to order some Chinese.
He too, like Betty, was a free spirit, would say anything that came into his head.
The constant antics made the show a success. But laughs aside, it was work taping an entire week in just one day. But as Gene tells it, the show was a family, and it never seemed like work to them.
When we were sitting around in the green room during the dinner break, gossiping and having a little vino, Charles one day just stopped the whole conversation. He said, "You know, this is not a job, this is a social engagement." And he was right. We were just a bunch of people who got together to have laughs. We didn't plan to joke around, it just happened. Thank God they were all creative people who would take the initiative. I didn't have to always lead them into something. Many times they'd do goofy things.
Match Game began its run in 1973, and its ratings were so high it'd be in the top 10 today. But Rayburn let the network bigwigs worry about ratings. The reason he got up in the morning was to please the audience.
I have enjoyed it because there's an element of doing a game show that's present on Broadway. The immediate reaction of the live audience. You have that in a big studio at CBS. So I think that's really gratifying.
Boy, I'm grateful not to have to compete with the match game anymore. Today, Gene's enjoying his retirement in the town he's called home since his heyday, New York City. Thanks for the memories, old friend. Speaking of memories, I remember the day Elton John borrowed one of Gene's suits for this next video. This is Don't Go Breaking My Heart, which had its heyday back in 1976.
Stay tuned, because after the break, VH1's game show A Go-Go continues with more classic music, and you'll see some of the game show's most embarrassing moments. Stick around.
Question, name something made of leather? Yes, sir.
A purse.
You're going to be slightly embarrassed when I finish this question. Name something made of leather that a cowboy uses.
Take your average American and you put him in contestants' row here. There's no telling what's going to happen. I mean, who knows how a housewife is going to react to winning a new convertible or not winning it.
And we're going to see what's behind door number 3 for Pam Roberts. And she trades in a brand new car, and she's got popcorn.
$25 with a Jolly Time popcorn.
But the unexpected doesn't only come from the novices. I mean, seasoned show business pros can get lost in what's happening and get a little flustered. It could even happen to this handsome devil. Howdy. No, I should say howdy. Howdy, how are you?
Very fine.
I woke him up anyway. Howdy, what kind of duty do you have on board a ship?
I have howdy duty.
That was going to be my line anyway, and you blew it for me. Thank you, Howdy. I appreciate that a lot. All right, let's meet our, no, we've met our players. Let's take a look at our contestants. No, let's take a look at our subjects. Did you hear that? He stole my howdy doody line. Not nice. It's just not done. Celebrity guests never get paid much for appearing on game shows, so they always take advantage of the great catering backstage. Unfortunately for Phyllis Diller, it came back to haunt her on Tattletales.
that the answer?
Phyllis changed her diet after that. What she should have done, though, was trade in the rice and beans for what was behind door number 2. I mean, after all, stranger trades than that were made by the master of the deal, Monty Hall. One of the most enthusiastic audiences in game show history would show up in wacky costumes, hoping to catch Monty's eye and make the deal of a lifetime. Bill has more from the man himself on the art of the deal.
When you think of the popular game show Let's Make a Deal, you do think of wacky costumes, but why did this theatrical game show leave such a lasting impression?
I think, first of all, it was the first show where the contestants were not brought up on stage to stand behind a lectern and answer questions. I went into the audience and I picked them at random. You make a deal with the next 2 people next to you and so on, and something happens and you sort of change stride a little bit, maybe change the deal a little bit to take advantage of what's happening. When you're through with that 30 minutes, you've been through a decathlon. I always call it the running, jumping, yelling, screaming, falling 10-event show.
Well, Let's Make a Deal was all that and more. A bonus aspect of the show were the loser prizes, lovingly referred to as zonks.
I think zonk came from one of the writers or my partner or something when they refer to when you make the wrong choice and you get whatever you call it. And I'd go on and I knew that where the prizes were, and I knew that there was a zonk. I didn't know what the zonk was. And the curtain would open, I'd get a big kick out of it too.
A fresh flounder. We have got salami. King-size ostrich. The world's biggest donut.
Between the zonks and the eclectic group of characters, watching this show always meant having a good time. Why dress in costume for a game show anyway?
When we started the show, we had no idea that people would come dressed up. We said, come to the show, and they came, and I would go through the audience, and I would say, I'll make a deal with you, and they responded, and so on. And by the second week, one woman, very smart, says, if he goes into the audience and picks people at random, I'll make a sign and print up a little poem on the sign and hope to get his attention. And she did. She had the sign that said, roses are red, violets are blue, I came here to deal with you.
And deal they did for over 20 years. But eventually, signs weren't enough to grab Monty's attention.
Then came the costumes, then came pirates and sailors, but we didn't discourage them, and they had more fun coming to the show dressed up.
All right, now, whoop.
I loved those people. We had a lot of fun together. They may have acted crazy, but underneath it all, they were good people. Came to my show.
While Monty was busy making deals, Stevie Wonder was recording this #1 hit, Superstition.
You know, game shows are great because they give everyday people their 15 minutes of fame. But you'd also be surprised at how many celebrities broke into show business as game show contestants. Tell us about it, Bill.
Thanks, Wink. This future TV and film star supplemented her income on Password before making it big. What was Kirstie Alley's day job back then? That answer and more pre-celebrity game show appearances when Game Show A Go-Go returns. Kirstie Alley made a few bucks by knowing where to put the ottoman and hang the curtains.
Thanks, Mr. Bill. You know, I gotta say, I'm enjoying myself on the set of Wheel of Fortune. By the way, Pat Sajak gets the nicest towels in his dressing room. I'd kill for one of those loofahs. But once a guy gets his own TV show or does a movie, he starts to get more than his share of attention from women. Trust Wink on this one. But before that, he's got to go through all the same channels as mortal men if he wants a date. Good thing for them, God gave us Jim Lang. Some of show business's most popular leading men called on Jim during a dry spell and appeared on the dating game. Right, Bill?
Before the star was driving Ferraris and frolicking on the beaches of Hawaii, he gave it his all on the dating game.
Standing 6'4", it's reasonable and correct to surmise that bachelor number 2 is an outstanding varsity basketball player. He plans to enter the world of business along administrative lines. He's from Detroit, Michigan. We'd like you to meet Tom Selleck.
That's right, Tom Selleck, but he went home dateless that time. And you know, he wasn't the only one caught on the set of the dating game. Do you recognize this pumped-up Austrian?
I've only been in this country 5 years, and there are some expressions I still don't understand. What does it mean, hanky-panky?
Well, let's see if you understand this. Playing around.
Playing around with what?
My goodness. We might have to take a little time with you.
Arnie didn't spend any time with her. He chose Bachelorette number 2. Maybe with better language skills, Arnie could have been a little more confident, like this next bachelor. Can you guess what his vice is?
Well, because I'm charming, witty, gorgeous, interesting to talk to, nice to be around. When I walk in a restaurant, all the faces turn and look at me, and it's a kind of a nice feeling. And the girls usually decide that after one date, they usually want to go out with me again.
Well, this time Don struck out. Now, before this girl made a career out of being David Letterman's favorite guest and Madonna's favorite pal, she was a promising songstress. Bet you didn't know she could sing. For those of you unsure, this is Sandra Bernhard on the short-lived Chuck Barris production, the $1.98 Beauty Contest. By the way, she won.
$1.98 couldn't even buy you a vowel today. But back then, it was a big honor. Sandra was #1 that day. Her agent earned his 19.8 cents. You may remember 1979 was the year the Knack was #1 on the charts. This is My Sharona.
Game Show A Go-Go, VH1's look at our favorite 70s game show continues with a look at our favorite sing-along show. Get ready to name that tune when we come back. With our host, Wink Martindale.
Who hasn't found themselves in the middle of making an important decision, only to have the theme to Jeopardy start playing in your head? For me, it's an occupational hazard. Some shows incorporate music directly into the game. My first television game show was called What's This Song? It was sort of a precursor to Name That Tune. Tom Kennedy was another man who gave big money to contestants for being able to name Muzak versions of Feelings or Tie a Yellow Ribbon in as few notes as possible.
Out of all the game shows of the 70s, it was Name That Tune that made a really lasting impression.
Wherever I went, people would say, I can cross that street in 4 steps. I can eat that cereal in 5 scoops, or whatever. It was a big hit.
Big hit it was. Not only did Name That Tune make a household name out of Tom Kennedy, it gave the world its first introduction to a wonderful singer, none other than Kathy Lee Gifford. So what was it about the musical concept that made it so loved?
Well, there are 3 different rounds. We have Melody Roulette.
Here we go with Melody Roulette.
We have a big wheel, a roulette wheel that we would spin, and on that wheel there were various denominations of money that you could win by naming a tune. The next round was Bitter Note. I would give a verbal clue.
This Burt Bacharach Hal David tune, which lent its name to one of the Carpenter's Gold albums, became a runaway success for them and established that brother-sister team as recording stars of the 1970s.
And the contestant A would say,
I'll name that tune in 3 notes.
Name that tune.
The third round was the people would have their little buzzers, and they would play against the clock. Whoever the winner was, we played, all right, we're going to play one more tune for you after this commercial. And if you can name that tune, you win $100,000.
Name That Tune would go on to become one of the most memorable game shows of the 70s.
When I first began in game shows, which was actually in the 60s, I had no idea it was going to be as long-running as it was. It lasted longer and tasted better than I ever dreamt it would. So I was just a lucky kid. And I count my blessings every day. Game show hosts never die. They just go on to the bonus round. And you know, when I think back on the 70s, all I can think of now is I guess I just caught a wave.
And that wave lasted for half a decade. And they were the best days of Tom Kennedy's life.
You know, back in 1976, you could have named this tune in less than 5 notes because it was a #1 hit. This is Rod Stewart, Tonight's the Night. In fact, any game show set is like home to me. It's in my blood. A lot of people might call the disco scene the defining cultural movement of the 70s. To that I say, sure, maybe they had their Andy Warhols and Bianca Jaggers. We had our Nipsey Russells and Paul Lynns, my friend. More people remember how to play tic-tac-toe than do the hustle. And unlike most disco recording artists, a lot of us game show hosts are still working, do you hear me? In fact, you can catch me on my new show, Debt, where the money you win helps get you out of hock. So until I see you there, I'm Wink Martindale for VH1. Goodbye, everybody.
Just put a little swing into it like this. Just go ahead, Larry. Dig, that's it, go. Yeah, I just want to... Oh, yeah!
While we're bouncing around, got a little message for you here, friends. Come there, find out. Oh, George, it's just...
Game show clips have been provided by
The Game Show Network. For the best in classic game shows, it's gotta be The Game Show Network.